Hello guys, in this video we are going to understand how the Indian Constitution came into being. The making of the Indian Constitution is a very important topic of the Indian polity. In the midst of the protests arising out of the formation of Simon Commission 1927, the then India Secretary Lord Birkenhead challenged the Indians to frame the constitution because he believed that the Indians were not capable of making a constitution. In response to this, in 1928, a committee under the chairmanship of Pandit Motilal Nehru produced a report called the Nehru Report, which was a draft constitution. The Nehru Report was the first step towards the making of the constitution by Indians. The idea of forming a constituent assembly was first proposed in 1934 by Manvendranath Roy. In 1935, the Indian National Congress for the first time officially demanded the formation of a constituent assembly. In 1938, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru announced on behalf of the Indian National Congress that the Constitution of Independent India would be framed by the Constituent Assembly elected on the basis of adult franchise. Finally, in 1940, the British government accepted the demand for adult franchise in its August resolution. In 1942, the British government sent the Cripps mission to India, headed by the British Cabinet Minister Sir Stafford Cripps. It was sent with a proposal for the creation of an independent constitution, but the Cripps mission failed. In 1946, the British government sent the Cabinet mission to India, which led the plan for the formation of the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly was formed in November 1946. The number of the members of the Constituent Assembly was supposed to be 389, out of which 296 seats were for British India and 93 seats were reserved for the princely states. Out of 296 seats in British India, 292 members were to be elected from 11 governor provinces and 4 from chief commissioners provinces. The 11 governor provinces were Madras, Bombay, Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, United Provinces, Central Provinces, Assam, Punjab, Sindh and Northwest Frontier Province. The Chief Commissioners provinces were Delhi, Ajmer Merwada, Kurg and Balochistan. The provinces and princely states were to be allotted seats in the proportion to their population. Roughly 1 seat was to be allotted for every 10 lakh people. The allocation of seats was to be done in 3 communities: Muslims, Sikhs and General. Representative of each community for the provincial assembly were to be elected by the members of that community. Voting was to be done by the method of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. The representatives of princely states were to be elected by the heads of princely states. Also, the members were to be elected indirectly by the members of the provincial legislature. The members of the provincial legislature were elected according to the limited franchise given by the Government of India Act 1935 on the basis of taxes, property and education. Election for the members of the British provinces to the Constituent Assembly were held in July-August 1946. In the elections, out of 296 seats, Congress got 208 seats, Muslim League got 73 seats, and independent members got 15 seats. The seats of the princely states remained vacant because they kept themselves separate from the Constituent Assembly. Proceedings of the Constituent Assembly. The first meeting of the Constituent Assembly was held on 9 December 1946. Only 211 members attended the meeting. The Muslim League boycotted the Constituent Assembly, demanding Pakistan. Being the senior most member, Sachidanand Sinha was elected as the provisional speaker of the Assembly. On December 11th, 1946, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Sharma was elected as the President of the Assembly. Dr. H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishnamachari were elected as Vice Presidents. Yes, two presidents were elected to the Constituent Assembly. On 13th December 1946, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru presented the Objectives Resolution in the Constituent Assembly. This proposal was accepted anonymously on 22nd July 1946. After the passage of the Indian Independence Act 1947, the representatives of the princely states started joining the Constituent Assembly. Due to the partition of the country, the number of the members of the Constituent Assembly was reduced from 389 to 299. The number of the members of the provinces decreased from 296 to 229, and the number of princely states from 93 to 70. Along with this, the Constituent Assembly also became a parliament, which started performing two functions. First, the making of the constitution, and the second is the making of common law for the country. When the meetings of the assembly was for the making of the constitution, then the president was Dr. Rajendra Prasad Sharma. And when the assembly met as parliament, it was presided over by G.V. Mavlankar. The making of the constitution was completed on 26 November 1949. The original constitution had 395 articles and 8 schedules. On 26 November 1949, some provisions related to citizenship, elections, ad hoc parliament, temporary and changeable rules, and short titles. Total 15 articles. Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 60, 324, 366, 367, 379, 380, 388, 391, 392 and 393 came into force. The last meeting of the Constituent Assembly was held on 24 January 1950. On that day, out of total 299 members, the Constitution was signed by 284 attending members. The remaining provisions of the Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950. On the basis of the resolution passed in Lahore session of the Congress in December 1929, 26 January 1930 was celebrated as Poon Swaraj Divas. To remember this historic day, the Constitution was passed on 26 January 1950. A total of 11 rounds of meetings of the Constituent Assembly were held in 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. The constitutions of about 60 countries were observed. The draft of the Constitution was considered for 114 days. A total of 64 lakh rupees was spent on the making of the constitution. After the last meeting, the assembly acted as the interim parliament of the country till 17th April 1952. The proposal for membership of the Commonwealth was accepted in May 1949 by the Constituent Assembly. The national flag was adopted on 22nd July 1947. On 24 January 1950, the national anthem Jana Gana Man and the national song Vande Matram were adopted. On 24 January 1950, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Sharma was elected as the first president of independent India. Committees of the Constituent Assembly. There were 8 big and many small committees formed to carry out various tasks. The major committees and their presidents were as follows. The Union Powers Committee, presided by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Union Constitution Committee, presided by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. The Committee for States, presided by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Committee on the Rules of Procedure and Steering Committee were presided by Dr. Rajendra Prasad Sharma. The Drafting Committee was presided by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The Provincial Constitutional Committee and Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribes in Excluded Areas were presided by Sardar Patel. The Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribes in Excluded Areas had 5 subcommittees. Fundamental Rights Subcommittee was presided by J.B. Kripalani. The Minorities Subcommittee was presided by H.C. Mukherjee. The North East Frontier Tribal Areas and Assam Excluded and Partially Excluded Areas Subcommittee was presided by Gopinath Hardoi. The Excluded and Partially Excluded Areas other than those in Assam Subcommittee was presided by A.V. Thakkar. The Northwest Frontier Tribal Area Subcommittee was included in Pakistan. This area was included in Pakistan after the partition. Small committees and their presidents. The Finance and Staff Committee, presided by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. The Credential Committee, Aladi Krishna Swami Iyer. The House Committee, B. Pattabi Sita Ramaiya. Order of Business Committees, presided by K. M. Munshi. Ad Hoc Committee on the National Flag, presided by Dr. Rajendra Prasad Sharma. The Committee on the Functions of the Constituent Assembly, presided by G.V. Mavlankar. The Ad Hoc Committee for Supreme Court, presided by S. Vardachari, who was not a member of the Constituent Assembly. Chief Commissioner Committee for Provinces, presided by B. Pattabi Sita Ramaiya. The Committee on Financial Provisions of the Union Constitution, presided by Nalini Ranjan Sarkar. He was not a member of the Constituent Assembly. The Linguistic Provinces Commission, presided by S.K. Dhar. S.K. Dhar was also not a member of the Constituent Assembly. The Special Committee to examine the draft constitution was presided by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. The Press Gallery Committee, presided by Usha Nath Sen. The Ad Hoc Committee on Citizenship was presided by S. Vardachari, who was not a member of the Constituent Assembly. The most important of all these committees was the Drafting Committee. It was formed on 29th August 1947. It was to prepare the draft of the Constitution. The Drafting Committee had 7 members. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of the Drafting Committee. N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar, Aladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, K. M. Munshi, Syed Mohammad Sadullah, N. Madhav Rao, who replaced B. L. Mitra after his resignation, T. T. Krishnamachari, who succeeded D. P. Khaitan after his death. Sir B. N. Rao was appointed the constitutional advisor to the Constituent Assembly. H. V. R. Iyengar was appointed Secretary of the Constituent Assembly. Helen Mukherjee was appointed as the Chief Draftsman of the Constituent Assembly. The elephant was adopted as a seal by the Constituent Assembly.